What's up, all my freelancers and creatives? This is Traffic Talk, the segment of the podcast where you ask questions and I give direct answers to those questions, all while in my daily commute of getting where I need to go. So this question comes from a Reddit user, and the question is, when does a fix become a change? So what this person is really asking is this: I develop software and clients don't seem to ever understand that it's not usually as easy as changing the color when I'm changing or adding a feature. They usually look at it as a fix. I'm beginning to better document their needs beforehand to avoid this, but when does a fix become a change? So more than likely, I don't have historical context on what happened in this interaction with the client, but more than likely you agreed on something, you delivered it, and now they're coming back asking for a change or asking for more. Now, the first thing that I would say is I hope you are working under a contract. And as a part of that contract, you should have a statement of work or a section of the contract in which you talk about the work that's agreed as well as the work that's delivered. Now, normally when working with clients, because all freelancers and all developers, designers, they're not created equally. So they might have worked with someone in the past to where changes were included. There are different people who work with clients, but they make it clear that there's one deliverable and you will pay for changes. In this case, it sounds like that wasn't fully discussed up front or not fully understood by the client. So really you're wondering, the client probably says, I have a small change, and it may not be small, right? So that's what you're worried about. So overall, my advice, because this has happened to me before multiple times and still happens today, my advice is you may want to institute something that I call revision cycles, right? And revision cycles is you're allowing the client to get a certain round of changes, but after that round of changes, you close up and say, hey, closes are now done. And the way I use revision cycles, because design, you normally get that, right? The way I use revision cycles is I normally give somebody about 1 to 2 rounds to say, look, I've delivered what you wanted. However, you may have feedback, you may have changes. In these 2 rounds, you can change whatever, within reason. You can change it. However, I suggest you write down all those changes at one time and submit them to me. If I change anything, that's 1 round. If you say, hey, can you make this, I know what I said I want it green, can you make it blue? If I change it blue and that's it, that's 1 round. If you make another change, that's 2 rounds. We're done. We're done. No more can be done or worked on this particular thing. Now, the caveat is, I do tell people, if you want to make more changes, that's possible. However, you're going to have to pay for any more changes. So to get extra cycles, you're going to have to pay, and this is the price. Now, I'm not putting that on the client because I want them to pay me more money and I'm trying to game them or get as much money from them as I want. I'm telling them this because I need the client to focus on what's important. If the client is making minute changes like change of color, make this button blue instead of red, how is that helping the client get toward their goal? It's really not, and they're getting caught up in minute details that may not have an impact on the overall project of which we're working on. So in other words, it's somewhat of a distraction. Oftentimes clients say, can you make this little change? But they can't really prove that making the change will make the project better. And when I work with clients, it's in my interest to make the project better. The other thing I do want to talk about is there is a difference between you fixing something and a client actually having a change or a revision. So, for example, if something messes up or breaks on the site and it's literally because of your fault, or something that you did or something that you neglected to do, you need to fix that for the client, no questions asked, and get it done and make sure it's back in functioning and working order. Secondarily, I said that's a fix. A change is they had something that's different and they didn't think about this before. They didn't bring it up before. So that's two different things. So if it's your responsibility, just fix it and move on. However, if it's something that they keep asking for that wasn't agreed upon, that's where you need to have the conversation about revision cycles. And you're going to have to stand firm on that. That brings up a whole nother point, which is how is the client going to maintain the code base or whatever it is you created for them going forward? You may need to develop a recurring fee or a maintenance fee or a retainer to say, hey, on a monthly basis, you can pay me this amount and I will continually come in and make updates and changes at least twice a month based upon whatever it is you need if it's within reason. Again, you'd have to define what those changes are. A good example of this is the website wpcurve.com. Now what they do is, now they strictly work with WordPress, but what they do is they say you pay us a monthly fee and there's a defined scope and we'll come in and fix different issues you have with WordPress. As long as it's not an overhaul or a redesign, we'll help you fix the code. You can set up something like that, a monthly retainer in which you tell a client, I don't mind doing these fixes or these updates for you, but there's a monthly fee, and going forward, if you have anything else you think about, let me know and I'll go in and make that change, within 2 weeks or within a week. I'll go in and make that change, but it's a monthly retainer. So you may need to institute something like that in your business. And all we're doing literally is attaching price to changes. Because when people see a price connected to a change, they start to see what's important and what's not important. And then they get a little more wiser and careful with the requests they make, and your time is still valued. It's no different from when I bought a car and they said, you want to buy a warranty? That's the same thing as, in my case, in this analogy, it's the same thing as a monthly retainer, that if something goes wrong, it's their responsibility to fix it. Now, me as the client, me as the purchaser, I can say yes or I can say no. And that's the other thing. You need to start asking clients these questions about revision cycles or monthly retainers, because at some point it needs to be their responsibility on whether or not they made the right decision to get it fixed. For example, I had a client in which I built a website for in the past. I said, do you want updates? You want me to maintain the environment? They said no. So the website got outdated, all this stuff happened, and they came back and they said, hey, website is outdated, it got hacked, can you help me? Now at this point, I was like, yes, but I'm gonna have to charge you to fix everything and get it back to normal. And they said, yeah, sure, we'll pay for it. So basically what happened is they didn't really come at me mad or upset or frustrated because I was charging them, because I gave them a decision to make. You can decide to protect your site on a monthly basis, or you can try to maintain it yourself. It's your decision. And they decided to maintain it themselves, and it didn't work out. So when I told them I'm going to charge them to fix everything, they didn't care because they had to make a decision. And that's the other half of your dilemma. Set up revision cycles, set up a monthly retainer if you really want to, so that people need to start making decisions on whether or not they want to accept help in changes and updates in the way you've set it up. And they either will say yes and pay you for that time, or they'll say no. But either way, they'll know it was their decision that caused whatever to happen in the future. So again, that was answering the question of when does a fix become a change, or what's the difference in something small that actually becomes a revision that I need to set up, and how do I work with that? So yeah, feel free to ask me questions. Again, like I mentioned, this whole segment of Traffic Talk is catered and made to answer questions different people have directly, and I can speak directly to those questions. And until the next one, I will catch you later. See you.